Excuse me. Welcome back to Nick Lenz Comic Corner Classic Lesson Doing Classics. This is episode number 2421 and episode number 2315. With this one particularly, we're just discussing issues of Attack by Spider-Man. I was going to do this review last night, but it got late, so do this one first. Now we're discussing issues of Attack by Spider-Man along with the last three annuals discussed because the annuals, the 5 annuals that came after these three annuals, actually 4, they're all been reviewed. Now, for the issues for this particular Spider-Man, well, first one was known as Peter Parker, were issues 121 to 127, along with 130, and afterwards, we're jumping straight to 151, and we're going from there to 157, and after that, we're going to do 161 to 170, and discuss annuals 8 through 10. Yes. By the way, these issues are written by Peter David. Yes, Peter David writes these issues. Thinking, really? Yes, really. Yeah, these issues start from December of 1986, and the last issue we're discussing, which is issue 170, you think, oh, that's 50 issues. Not really. No, not really. And the last issue, issue 170, came out in, basically, get this, September of 1990. So basically, kind of in a way, I'm getting Spider-Man out of the 1980s. Yes, in the case of 121, it is mostly about issue about J. Jonah Jameson, and it's basically like the whole thing, like, it's basically a day with no suit villains. It's basically a relaxing issue, and Peter David writes it. 122 basically is Spider-Man versus the Mauler, who last appeared back in Marvel TM 136. That was just prior to this one. His next appearance right after this issue is basically over an Iron Man. Yep. Yeah, we also have a character named Joy Morito. Yeah, she is basically like, she's been a recurring character in the book, and this would actually be one of her this actually would be her last appearance in the book for quite a while. She would not appear in Second Summon again until issue 146. Yeah, and most of what she appeared back between this book and Web and a little bit of Amazing, and her most recent appearance today was actually opening issue of Moon Knight, basically the War Analysis issues. Yes, for some reason, this is the most recent issue, and this only came out, like, good gosh, like 9 years ago. 123, oh, this is a weird one. So we have this guy called Blaze, who only appears as one issue. Now, here is a weird fun fact about this story. Okay, it features, of course, Black Cat in this issue. Now, here is kind of the weird thing about this issue. This is one of 2 comics released in the 80s that has got a porn parody. No joke, it seriously does. I mean, it's presented like the same exact issue, except the only difference is they actually depict Black Cat and Spider-Man having sex. Yep, that is the only difference. And if you're curious, what was the other issue? An issue of Firestar. Yes, they spooked the final issue of that book as a porn parody. Yep, I'm not going to go into exactly what happens in this issue, but it's a very adult comic book. Kids, do not read it. Now you're thinking, why do I talk about this? Because here's the weird thing about this. That porn parody used the same exact freaking cover. And it has the same art style. They just altered with this weird scene. Yes, and this basically is the introduction, is basically Spider-Man's first meeting with the Foreigner. Despite the fact technically this is not his debut. He actually made his debut in 120 in 115. And then of course in 124 we have Spider-Man vs. Dr. Octopus, who last appeared, get this, back in issue 72, just 5 years prior to this. And you're thinking, wait, he was gone for 5 years in Spider-Man comics? Apparently. Yeah, I found that kind of weird. Like, here he is, appearing in this book. And you're thinking, wait a minute. He actually appeared in issue, like, what was it, like, 124? Yeah, well, technically he had appeared in other books. For some reason, it's probably chronological that was his last appearance. But his previous appearance was actually, if you don't count Secret War, actually an issue of more fanfare. Yeah, we fought Iron Man. So he was active, but it was a very interesting issue. Not bad throwing him. We also introduced a character named Mrs. Tevler. A character who only appeared for one issue. And that was it. And then 125, it's basically Spider-Man teamed with Julia Carpenter for this issue and the following issue to take on the freaking Wrecking Crew, which is awesome. Yeah, and we also, there's this character in the book named Catherine Cushing. Yeah, she'd been a sort of a recurring character in this Spider-Man book at this point, like one of those many they've had. And she made guest appearance in this book. And if you're curious, what was the last appearance? The Captain America release in 1979. Yep. In 126, basically continues that two-part story. And then 127, basically, started teams up with the Lenz to take on the Owl. And it feels like basically a minor rehash of the Life Tablet storyline from issue 72 to 75 of Amazing Spider-Man. Yeah, it feels like a bit of a rehash. And now, we're moving on to the final issue when it was known as Peter Parker Spider-Man, where Spider-Man, in this issue, has a guest appearance by the Hobgoblin. Yes, the Hobgoblin. We have this European gangster in this issue too. And by the way, this issue is not written by Peter David, it's written by Bob Layton. If you're really curious, Peter David wrote that issue. For 127, it's Lynn Kametsky. 126, Danny Figueroff. 125, that was also Danny Figueroff as well. Okay, well, 124, Roger McKenzie. 123, Peter David. I think this was the last regular issue he did until that three-parter that was a follow-up to Sin Eater. Yeah. And now we're skipping to issue 151. Now, 151 to 157, it's basically kind of a loosely connected set of issues of basically Joe Robinson being in jail and basically being tormented by Tombstone. These issues are basically done by Jerry Conway with Sal Bushman, the artwork. Yep. Also, the Chameleon disguised himself as J. Jonah Jameson for these issues. Yes, seriously. And at the conclusion of the story arc, Robinson breaks out of jail. Rob breaks out of jail and later receives a pardon at the end of this story arc. It's really good. I do appreciate Conway doing this. This is a really fun story arc. And now, moving on to the last... Yeah, you can think, wow, you breeze through these issues. Well, it's basically a story arc here. Now, for issues 161 to 170. Now, in the case of 161, it's basically Spider-Man taking on the Puma. Puma, in this storyline, in these other issues, he's the owner of the Daily Bugle. And, of course, basically, they deal with Hobgoblin here. And then with Charon, who was actually Malcolm McBride. Yeah, his last appearance was back in Spectacular Spider-Man issue 149, with Jerry Conway issue. Now, in case you're curious, did Jerry Conway write the issue? Yes, he does. The story kind of continues in the Amazing Spider-Man Annual, number 10, which I've discussed this already, so not worry about it. In 163, basically, where so those with Hobgoblin and Charon form a partnership with Hammerhead and Tombstone in these issues. Yep. And then 164, basically, we have the Beetle, or the Ranger here. The Ranger, yeah, he's been a recurring character in Spider-Man comics for quite some time. The very next issue, 165, is his final appearance. Why? Because he's murdered by two assassins known as Night and Fog. Who are from the UK. Yes, UK assassins. British assassins kill an American gangster. Don't know why. Of course, he last appeared... Let's see, it wasn't that book, per se. The Ranger's run name was Oswald Skillworth. Yes. He's appeared in the book since issue 138, a Marvel team-up. And he's been a recurring presence in the comics. Yep. Yeah, and then basically, like, the issue 165, the tagline is, "The Arranger must die." And he dies. Oh, yeah, he dies. And he stays there to the 90s. Yep. There's also been a continuity here with this one where, like, there's basically mentioning of issues that previously from 150-153, issues of Web of Spider-Man. I'm not going to discuss some physical stuff here. Yeah, I like the fact that they're basically referencing a lot of stuff here. Yeah, Night and Fog, if you're curious about these two weirdos, yeah, they don't appear very much. Nope. They appear for 165 to 167, and they appear for Marvel Knight Spider-Man, and that was it. Yeah, they're here for a quick three-parter. And there's also a guy named... Oh, it's not this guy here. James Jerome. Oh boy, this guy. This guy is an alleged old friend of Mary Jane's who tries to seduce her. Yes, at one point kissing her, and she's like, "No, I'm married." And he apparently cannot understand the word no. So basically, he's trying to sleep with a married woman. And this guy is a complete buffoon, and he doesn't really appear very much. Yeah, I can't wait to discuss his last appearance in comics. Oh, don't worry, I'll discuss it in a future review. But yeah, he's basically doing this while Peter's off in the UK fighting assassins. So he's fighting assassins, and there's a guy trying to move in his wife. Yep, and then basically 160, 169... it's Spider-Man's attempt to join up with the Avengers. Yeah. Yeah, and this is also the period of time when Thor is sharing a body with Eric Masterson. Yep. So, Spider-Man forms a separate group known as the Outlaws. Yep. The Outlaws. A group that was a group he formed, comprised of characters from his own comic, comprised of the Sandman, Will-o'-the-Wisp, Silver Sable, Rocket Racer, Puma, and the Prowler. Yes, these characters technically first showed up in Web of Spider-Man 50. They actually returned for these two issues. And then they popped up Amazing Spider-Man in 25, the 11 for Second Spider-Man, and finally they were disbanded in Web of Spider-Man in number 7. Yeah, I enjoy these issues. Really fun. Also, to take on the frickin' Space Phantom, which is awesome to say the least. Yeah. We have the first appearance of a cult that was Arcane Order of Night, who only appear a few times. Now, you were thinking, okay, what about those annuals that you were going to talk about? Well, let's talk about Annual number 8. Annual number 8 is a tie-in to the Evolutionary War. Yep. It was a series of annual crossovers published in the 1980s. This was the issue that established a retcon that was ignored the following decade. The fact that, Jackal never created clones. It was all high evolutionary. And the clone of Gwen Stacy is retired with this issue. Yes, who becomes Joyce Delaney. Yeah, she takes the name of Joyce Delaney. And she's pretty much in a way retired, kind of. Yes, because after this annual, she later pops up during the Clone Saga. Yep, she's brought back for that for a very brief period of time. And then, sadly, she got killed off just prior to the events of Spider-Man at Spider Island. Yep. Yeah, and this also was the, basically, in this issue, you have featured 2 deaths. One, we possibly killed off the Hobgoblin, who's supposedly Roger Kingsley. Nope, it was actually Roderick's brother, Daniel. Yep. And of course, basically, Miles decided to go and kill the woman he basically tried to woo. Yes, because for some strange reason, the creepy old man, Professor Miles Warren, fell in love with the early 20s Gwen Stacy. And even if he had told her how he felt, she would turn him down flat. Because at the time, she was dating Peter. Yes, seriously. That would be pretty much basically what she would do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she would turn on flat. Just cuz. Oh yeah. Just cuz. Yep. Yeah, this was the last time we see her until like the following decade. It was a really interesting end of what it was. That was mostly for the main story. The backup stories feature more stuff with the young gods. Yeah, they're characters Mark Remo created who appeared sporadically. They didn't really appear very much, mostly, but they were just heavily involved in Mark Comic Presents. They had featured in that one. They're kind of loose with the Eternals. And the third story, just more focus on them as not what they are. And number 9. It's part of the Atlantis Attack storyline. Where Tyrannus, who was a Hulk villain, decides to try to kidnap a dagger to be taken to Set. That's the whole point of Atlantis Attacks, where you have various female superheroes being kidnapped by followers of Set to marry him, to become his brides. Despite the fact, like, 1 or 2 of these women are actually already married. Because one of the women he kidnapped was Susan Richards. A woman who's already married and has a child. Yep. The annual itself was a lot of fun. I thoroughly enjoyed this annual. Mm-hmm. And it's also, and by the way, if you're curious about the 2 annuals, and number 8 was written by the main story, Jerry Conway. Yeah, he pretty much writes the whole thing. Now, the artwork, oh, by the way, the back and feet, the last one, Sons of Earth, that's Mark Greenwell, who created the Young Gods. Different artwork for each story. Mark Bagley does the first 3 stories. The last one's done by Rob Lim. And number 9, Jerry Conway. He does the opening story. The artwork by David Ross. Second story, Free Fall, Glenn Harding, Scott McGinn, the artwork. 25 Most Important Women in My Life. Written and drawn, inked, colored, and lettered by Fred Haberk. Jerry Conway does the third story, Sweet Revenge, with Dan Jurgens on the artwork. Yep. And then Golden Serpent. This is Peter Sanderson and Mark Bagley. Yep. And in particular, like I mentioned, Tiny Adventure. Okay, but what about Animal 11? Yeah, I've already discussed the rest of the ends because that's pretty much it when it comes to the end because there's nothing really much else. Oh, I think I was actually end number 7. Yes, and it was actually 7 through 9, not 8 through 10. My apologies. Yeah, this end is actually referenced in the main book itself. It actually takes place before. It's placed before 120 and 130 of Spectacular Spider-Man. It's a really cool story. It's mostly put basically something that was referenced in the book itself, which was a really cool annual. Who wrote the annual, might ask? Christopher Priest, who at the time was gone by Jim Owsley, with Alan Kupmark on the artwork. Yep. But not much else to say about these issues. They're really good, and I can't wait to finish reviewing the series. Also, with this particular review, I reviewed all 14 annuals for Spectacular Spider-Man. Now, if you're really, really curious about the after 8 of 14, like, was there anything else in Volume 2? Nope. 3? Nope. Not that I know of, anyways. Yeah, that's the weird thing about Volume 3. It had no annuals. You would have thought, though. Volume 2 came up at a time when it didn't publish annuals. But what about 3? Did it have an annual? Well, it kind of did. I think I may have reviewed this already in the one of the trades for Spider-Man. Yep, it just basically focuses the game as his backstory. So with the annuals for Spider-Man, that's all done. And for the first volume, as of this review, I have exactly 26 issues left to go because I've already discussed issues 197 to basically the final issue now. Yep. Would I recommend these issues? Oh yeah, check them out. Yep. And it's a good thing I focus on just these issues and not do another thing with it. Okay, so that's going to be pretty much it, particular review. I would do the comic corner, but I really want to do Jujutsu Kaisen. I'm going to do that next. And then I'll do my next review, which will be Wonder Woman and the Movement. Okay? Next review. Bye.